and explain how records were handled before.
Okay.
So initially, you'll find that people used to keep records in their books before the computer age, and then we had computers come in, and people used to keep now the records in the computers, but that was not enough because this data could be lost if you lost your computer. So
Haven't we all been there?
Yeah. So we had the cloud computing now coming in. So this information is now centralized, and one of the problems with the information being centralized is someone can actually tamper with it. So after that, then people wanted to have a more secure and an integral system. So what happened is now there was the formation of this blockchain technology, which is technology that store records across different locations and also use some computer algorithms to make it a bit secure.
Okay, fantastic. But then the thing is, so it's more of like a public ledger, it's which allows transparency to happen.
Yeah, so the transparency aspect comes from it being public because it's not only one person that stores the records, but these records are distributed among different people.
Rosalind, this conversation of blockchain technology came into time with cryptocurrencies, and people confused, or rather can't really well differentiate between Bitcoin and blockchain technology. What's the difference between those two? Because Bitcoin does run on a blockchain technology platform.
Yes, it does.
Help me understand the difference.
All right. Now, as he has said, blockchain is the ledger itself, the record, but Bitcoin is like a token. Right. For example, if I use M-Pesa as an example of mobile money, when I send you the money or whichever amount that I'm supposed to send you, when you receive the money, you have a message that you have received this amount from this person. It's a singular message, right?
Right.
Now, when you have that, it means that you have a digital token representing the money. You don't have the actual cash at hand, right? But it means that when you go to an agent, the agent can accept that and give you cash in exchange for that.
Cash, right.
Exactly. So Bitcoin is that digital token in itself. But blockchain is the record of all transactions. In the same way that if we go to Safaricom, which hosts M-Pesa, we will be able to see transactions from one person to another, one business to another, and all of them. Now, the blockchain is the record of all those transactions. Then now Bitcoin is just a singular token that can be exchanged from one person to another.
So where do smart contracts come in this conversation of blockchain technology? And will they replace lawyers? Because a lot of the conversation around smart contracts is that what if then it comes in hands and replaces lawyers? But first of all, help us understand what smart contract is.
All right. Now, let me also just create a little bit of a timeline, right? So with the first blockchain technology, with the first blockchain, for example, because there are different kinds of blockchains and there are many, there's not a singular blockchain. So that's, I think, where sometimes people get a little bit caught up. So with the first kind of blockchain, it was purely a record. It was purely a ledger and a purely public ledger, the one that hosted the Bitcoin token, if I may use that word.
Right.
All right. So that one did not have smart contracts in itself. It was just purely with the records. But then now people started saying, okay, so we can have a technology that keeps records that can't be hacked, that can't be replicated, and that can't be tampered with. So what else can we do with this? So that's where we had the smart contract aspect being added. And a smart contract is basically a code. It's a program that executes. You just tell it, if it sees this, then this should happen. It's a sequence of instructions, just like any other
Like
program.
a flow chart?
Yes, if I may use that example.
Yeah.
If this should happen, then that should happen. If this should happen, then that should happen, right? Now, with a smart contract, if I may just use a non-technical definition or example, if I want to buy a car from you and we want this process automated, it should mean that this program or this channel, it should be able to establish that I am the owner of the car, this is the car that I own, this is the information that's connected to this car, this is what it's worth, this is the insurance. And when I want to transfer it, it should be able to establish that you are the person, you are the owner, you have the logbook, you have the car, and that once I transfer it to you, then all this information will be verified and it will be secure. Now, in that case, this smart contract should just be able to establish secure transfer. That's the point.
So you don't see it replacing lawyers?
Exactly, and that's now why I'm driving towards the fact that the program is, the smart contract in itself is a program. It cannot in entirety replace lawyers, because you see, there's the aspect of human arbitration whereby all this can't be automated. There are aspects of arbitration that simply cannot be automated. While a smart contract can be, we can inform it, so to speak, to take away the bulk of data and just finding out, okay, fine, this statute, that statute, this statute, that statute, and that's why where you bring in other technologies like AI, because they can really take away the bulk of data, so to speak, from making those decisions. But at the end of the day, you have humans, you have decisions, you have impact, you have so many things that you have to handle among or around human interactions that smart contracts in themselves cannot replace. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So then, Derek, can ICT, and to be specific, blockchain technology, can it help fight corruption, especially since it's a public ledger, there's transparency, it can be hacked or tampered with?
Yeah, sure. I think the beauty of blockchain is it provides a very good audit trail. So if there are mistakes that were made, we can actually see that there was a mistake that was made, and the person who made the mistake should justify that. So the aspect of it being immutable, that is tamper-proof, is what makes it really good for such audit trails. So if someone procured something and then we actually ensure that this was on the blockchain, then that will always be there and it will never disappear. So we can always go back and use that as a reference to show proof that something actually happened.
And the task force that CS Joe Musheru of ICT created, do you feel as if their team, that task force, will help generate and make sure that Kenya stays on the game, especially when it comes to blockchain technology?
Yeah, my thoughts about the task force are very positive because I think they'll be curating policies, especially to allow this technology to be implemented in the government sector. Because I think one of the problems of implementing this technology in the government or any governmental institutions is because of lack of policies. So that we have a policy vacuum right now, so we need to seal that, and then so this task force, I believe, will come up with policies that will help the government or any the members of parliament to actually curate some policies to allow this implementation.
Okay. So Rosalind, then because a viewer would want to know.
Yes.
What will blockchain technology do for Mama Boca? Bring it down, boil it down for me to that point.
All right.
Yeah.
So one of the first applications that we've seen, and this was just a few months ago, it's that if she wants to sell, if she wants to be sure that her product is from a specific supplier and that she's getting the right price, she's getting the best price, best product at the time that she needs it, then she can be sure that she's getting that. That's one of the first applications that we've seen. Now, one of the other options is that if she needs financial remittance, she needs support, or she just needs extra funds to expand her business. And this now brings in the aspect of credit lending or just funding. Blockchain technology can be very helpful in that aspect. So in just putting those two aspects, I'll probably just mention one of the other things. One of the first areas that we're seeing blockchain technology being very helpful is in the area of finance, just payments, transfers, remittance, because I can be sure that this money won't be siphoned off through a hacker, it won't be siphoned off through fraud. It'll get to you when it should get to you. It will get to you faster probably than traditional platforms, and I can be sure that you yourself are the one who's going to get it, unless probably you mismanage your account, right?
Right.
Yes.
So maybe one would be asking, where did blockchain technology come from? Who invented it? We all know where computers came from. We all know where Facebook came from.
Yeah.
We can trace. The only thing that we do not know, that there's nothing that you can go switch off, is the internet. There's no public building where the internet is where you can go switch it off.
Yes.
But someone will be asking, where did blockchain come from? Where did this new technology come from, Derek?
I think the technology itself has evolved, and I think it came from the field of distributed computing. So people have been working to create systems that are more like tamper-proof, and I think the success, or the first success that proved that the blockchain technology could actually work, was the Bitcoin technology, because it was the best use case. It's actually what brought blockchain into the limelight. Although it overshadowed the technology, I think it proved that this could work. So it's been an effort by so many people in the computing industry. So it's not like a one-time thing. It's something that actually came from quite a number of people. Yeah.
So it's not one specific person who came up with it?
No, it's a contribution of several computer scientists.
Okay, talk to me about the trends. Fine, blockchain system is here to stay. It's going to do 1, 2, 3. Where do you see this going in the next 5, 10 years?
Wow, I think that's an interesting question because right now I think let's talk about the successes at the moment. Some of the successes right now are basically in the finance industry, so dealing with the transfer of money, remittance, but you can imagine this technology being applied in all industries. You can imagine it being applied in the land sector, in the health industry. This can be actually very revolutionary in terms of like this data can actually be accessed by so many people, and it can be in a secure way. So you can imagine if your health records you can actually access your health records from any institution in a secure manner without actually having to carry them around or going to maybe the file office asking them to give you your records. But you can imagine it being on this layer that everyone can actually see, not everyone, but the authorized people can actually see, or you can give the authority. Because what blockchain technology actually does is what we call a democratization of data. So if your data belongs to you, so you can decide on how you deal with your data. So it can't be just some abstract data outside there, but you know it belongs to you. For instance, Bitcoin, you don't have an address like Derek Chrono. You just have some string that represents you, that represents your wallet, your account.
Your digital wallet.
Yeah, so you can imagine having a digital wallet that stores your medical records. So your medical records can be with any practitioner, but they actually don't know these are your records. So unless you go there and then tell them, actually, this is my record, this is my address, you can unlock it this way, and then that's when they'll know that this is actually your record. So 5 years from now, I think we'll see now real use cases. Because a lot of innovation right now is on building technology itself.
Right now it's still on the groundwork platform, still trying to understand this new technology and what it can and cannot do.
Exactly.
Roslyn, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, the trends of where blockchain is also going, given the fact that will it create new jobs that we've never seen coming up now, courtesy of this blockchain technology, and just generally the impact that technology is having in our day-to-day society. Other jobs have to go, but many more will be created.
True. Jobs will be created because, for instance, in the health industry, you see where you have new systems of managing those records and that data. In the next 2 to 3, let's say just 3 to 5 years, we'll just see some jobs being more of reshaped and redefined rather than even those that are being cut off. Because I know there's that conversation whereby people are wondering, okay, so will my job disappear? For example, accounting. There are aspects of accounting that really can't just be done away with or fully automated. So one thing that definitely people will need to do is just ask just a simple question. All right, so this technology is here. How can I position myself, or how can I equip myself? How can I be prepared to
take
work
advantage?
with, yes, to take advantage of this technology and actually be ready to work with it? Because it's not necessarily that your singular business will be affected. It's just look at it from more of an industry perspective. Then now, once you see this industry, for example, health or agriculture or finance, or for example, asset transfer is likely to be affected or improved by the technology, then now just try and see ahead. All right, so in this, my job will probably entail that I do less data, I change this or I change that. So just learn to prepare yourself in that context.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so you just need to think ahead. And probably, I did a brief article, for example, on just how, for example, for lawyers, they'll need to think about regulation in terms of policy that enable some of these businesses to operate in that space. For software developers, definitely they have to create applications. For educators, they definitely need to train and create curricula. For just different industries, you just need to see how your career will fit into that.
So different industries also have a way of putting their own work into this industry.
Yes.
Okay, but so Derek and Roslyn, we cannot not talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies when we're talking about blockchain. I feel like we wouldn't have done justice to the conversation. Now, having understood what blockchain is and how it works, what it can and cannot do, let's now talk generally about cryptocurrencies. It's a new phenomenon that has been there since 2008, if I'm not wrong, if my memory serves me very well. Do you see a time when we will just not have paper money anymore and work with strictly digital money? M-Pesa, classic example. Do you see a time like this happening?
Both yes and no.
Okay.
It depends on quite a number of factors. If we look at the history of money, we evolved from, or rather we moved from the days of barter trade to the coins, to paper money, digital money, plastic cards and all that. It was a learning curve over time. Now with digital money and digital assets, let me begin by saying that cryptocurrencies aren't or quite haven't qualified to be money, which is why governments have the right to say that, hey people,
they're not tenders.
Yes, yeah, they're not legal tender, because for something to qualify as money, it has to be a unit of account, store of value, and the last thing is that it's a medium of exchange.
Okay.
Those three things. Now for cryptocurrencies, we have seen them becoming a medium of exchange. Yes, it's a peer-to-peer. For example, Bitcoin, I can pay you, can pay me.
Right.
Very easy.
Right.
It's a store of value. You've seen people really earning a lot of money from the speculation.
Right.
But it's not a unit of account in the sense that one government can't say that we will pay you in Bitcoin for
for a debt or an asset.
Yes.
Or, okay.
And for as long as there's no unified or standard regulation around the world regarding these cryptocurrencies being a unit of account from one government to another, from one jurisdiction to another, then that's the time it will take for these cryptocurrencies not to be used by the public.
Right.
Because then right now, if you want to pay me in Bitcoin, I can refuse, and I have a right to refuse because there's no law that requires me to do that. But if you tell me that you want to pay me in M-Pesa or cash and I refuse, then you have a right to actually raise a concern.
Yes,
You
yes.
know?
Derek, is this why the CBKs and most the IMF still have not fully accepted cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, I think there are quite a number of factors that influences most of these organizations to not accept this token because you see it's highly volatile, because there is no one organization that regulates it. So it's more of speculation and also what people think about, and the people who control actually the amount are the people who have a lot of these tokens, the bitcoins. So if they decide today that we want to make the market crash, then they just release the funds into the market. So if they have the power to do that, then it means that the government will actually be relegated to just watching.
But isn't that the same thing not happen even without paper currency? The people who manipulate markets to suit them as well. Because my biggest understanding of cryptocurrencies, and it's more specifically Bitcoin, the reason why the founder behind it created it is to give power back to the people, where you don't have a central bank having to regulate or to have manipulation on an economy. And at the end of the day, you find it is the Wanjikos who are also suffering because someone with a high suit level, wearing a suit, made a decision that affected everyone's the economy in general. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things, that was the main idea, but you find that countries like China right now are owning like a lot of these bitcoins.
Because, and Japan?
Yeah, because one of the things is they have like these miners and they have free electricity, so they can always gain a lot of these cryptocurrencies, and that means that they're actually in a position to do the manipulation. But I think the beauty of Bitcoin is that I think the creator Satoshi Nakamoto wanted a universal currency, something that can cross borders with the same exchange rate, and that has happened. But in terms of manipulation, I think there's still some aspect that actually Bitcoin or the price can actually be manipulated, and I think it's highly volatile because at one point it was at around 18,000, but right now I think it's trading at around 6,000. Yeah, but it's I think it will take time before we can actually see it stabilize and we can actually trust it, and you can be able to actually accept that as a currency.
But then what happens after, if a time like that comes, Rosalind, where Derek has clearly mentioned that when a time comes when it's well stabilized and it's accepted, then what? Do we see this as the end of paper money? What will then become of financing, and more specifically paper money 5-10 years to come then?
All right. Within within that time frame, it's still too early to eliminate the trail of paper money, because remember, in any economy you have different tiers of transaction, if I may put it that way. You have the high volume transactions with big payments and all that. Then you have the micro payments, small payments here and there. Now, if I may put it in a sense that for high volume payments, then people might find it a bit more logical or trustworthy to use a reliable or a trusted cryptocurrency. If not that, another form of electronic payment. Because again, if in those 5 to 10 years there's no regulation or law that requires you to use these digital currencies, then it still means we're going to be using the existing payments, the existing electronic fund transfer systems and all that. But if at that time there's more trusted cryptocurrency platforms, then it means that it'll be easier to make those payments. Yeah. But for small micropayments, it will still be, for the larger public, easier to pay in cash.
And the reason I'm asking is that we've seen these stories on news, especially here in Kenya, where you'll find a few individuals who have enterprises, businesses accepting, not M-Pesa, but Bitcoin as a form of payment, just the same way you can accept Visa, M-Pesa, any other form. It's now happening here. You'll find that there are certain places where you can buy goods and services using Bitcoin.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So in that sense, it depends both on the businesses and on the people. For the businesses, it's that they've understood this is a payment mechanism. It's a peer-to-peer. I can accept this from my clients. Right. I can accept this from other businesses. It's that it will be a bit arbitrary.
Right.
Yes.
But Kenyans in totality are yet to get to that point where you can actually get into somewhere and pay for goods and services using Bitcoin.
It's a learning curve.
Okay.
Yes, there are few people who have paved the way, of course, and it just depends on the willingness of the public to understand that it's not, while it's not imposed upon them, it's good that they learn because this will be a lot more accepted in the future. So
Derek, being a senior developer, what's the role of developers, software developers and etc. in the tech ecosystem for awareness to be created, not just on cryptocurrencies, but even on blockchain system, given what it can do?
All right. Maybe first of all, I would say that the blockchain technology is not like a silver bullet to solve all the problems in the development ecosystem. So one of the things that is wonderful about this is it cannot work on its own. So it has to be plugged with other components to make our system. So it's just a piece of a whole technological solution. So what developers should be keen in is identifying the problem that actually that they see they need integrity in data, and also they need this aspect of immutability and consensus. So that's what I think developers should focus more on, because that is what the technology itself provides. And also, I think that's it in a nutshell.
And how does blockchain system affect or influence smart cities, given that a lot of smart cities are coming up? Even we know the likes of here in Kenya, from Konza to Tatu City. How do you see that playing in the role of smart cities on the African continent?
Wow, that's a very interesting point to look at things. So I think with smart cities, because what I think about smart cities is these are like integrated communities that build up so we need some kind of coexistence. So I think with blockchain technology, we can actually be able to run operations like transactional operations. If we are looking at maybe paying for electricity, paying for parking, internet services, sharing information across the smart cities, or even controlling traffic and all lights. That, it makes a lot of sense, because if people can actually be able to contribute this data within their city, or we have sensors and all that with the IoT, Internet of Things, then these smart cities can actually work well with the blockchain technology, because we have this information which is shared across the city and everyone can access it. So if there is a computer within the traffic lights, it can actually sense that, wow, several people are checking from this particular building and this particular street in maybe one of the concert streets. So we need to start monitoring traffic in such a way that we allow more people to pass through this route using now AI, what Rosalind said.
Right. Yeah. And before we come to closing comments, perhaps, Rosalind, your addition to that of blockchain technology complementing smart cities on the African continent.
Now, just as he has said, managing those systems, because you see for a city you have several systems interplaying and interlaying over each other. So blockchain technology in that sense should just be able to help people keep track of the information, find out what's important, and it of course can't operate on its own. It needs to be integrated with other technologies. And what we're seeing with 5G, Internet of Things, and AI, all these others need to be incorporated so that you don't just have blockchain as the one that's really calling the shots, if I may put it that way, but you have a combination of technologies that helps these cities to be managed a lot more efficiently and a lot more sustainably than what we've seen with traditional cities.
Right, so there's a need for all these technologies,
yes,
be
to
it
be
blockchain, be it AI, all
yes.
working together to form a working
yes.
system.
Yes, because as you said, blockchain is not a silver bullet.
Yeah, it can solve all the
ledger.
problems.
Yes, it's a special kind of ledger at the end of the day. That's what we need to remember. It's the advantages that it's offering us that we are considering and seeing being used for all these other technologies and options. It's a tool.
All right.
Yes.
Perhaps my closing remarks is, both of you are quite young people. What advice would you give to anyone who is seeking or looking to go into the area of blockchain technology, be it as a senior developer or any other way? And I want to open it beyond just blockchain technology, but just more advanced technologies such as AI. What would you tell young people, given that both of you are also young people in this industry?
All right. I think our industry is fast evolving, so we should actually concentrate on understanding some of the. Sorry.
It's okay. As you handle that, let me just talk to Rosalind. Rosalind, perhaps your thoughts on that as well.
All right. What I would definitely encourage young people is that take time to learn. Don't wait for anyone to teach you. Yes, there's a lot of information. For example, just when I was starting out in researching blockchain, I came across so much information that at one point I would feel overwhelmed. But I just decided I needed to find people who have gone ahead of me and who have understood the industry better so that they could mentor me in my journey. So two things that young people, of course, right now need to do is take up the initiative in self-learning. Find out, for my industry or for my space, you may not need to be a software developer. You don't have to learn the coding itself, because for different people, they have different rates of understanding it. So you may need to have some of that technical skill. But even if you don't need it for your specific industry, just think ahead.
Right.
What will these technologies do to the future of my work?
Okay.
Just ask those questions so that as you learn, you reach out to mentors who are able to guide you in the right direction. And as you place yourself and you position yourself, take the initiative, work on a job, just take something up that will help you gain the skill that will position you for the future of work as it's changing.
Okay. Derek, pick it up from there.
Yeah, I think I'll just choose one word: be curious, because there are quite a number of things coming up in this industry, and it's evolving so fast. So curiosity will make you at least be at par with, to understand and also look for things. Because I think how I discovered the blockchain technology and Bitcoin was through curiosity, and that is where I took it up from.
Okay.
So be very curious about anything that you hear about.
Okay, thank you so much for both of you for helping us understand the blockchain technology. That was Derek Rono. He's a senior developer at Andela, as well as Rosalind Wanjiru. She's the education program coordinator at EOS here in Nairobi. Let's take a commercial break. We'll be right back.